Hi everyone, I'm Jodi Barrows with the Square in a Square. I'm so excited that you've joined us today. This is our third class and this is a live webinar teaching, and we have been doing the option overviews. The options are the different triangle units that you make to put in all of your quilts. It doesn't matter what color, it doesn't matter what size. Anything that is a triangle unit can be made with the Square in a Square system, and it helps remove the human element. It helps improve on the cutting, the sewing, and the pressing. It allows you to get smooth, flat work and nice sharp points, and it is just a little bit of knowledge away. If this is the first time you have joined us, then welcome. We're so glad you're here. The options are the different triangle units that you get when you start out with what we call the basic square, and then you trim it up with the Square in a Square ruler and system, and you get all of these different triangle units. There are now 44 different triangle units. Today you're going to see the ones that are in the option 4 family, which are the half square triangles. One of the most common units in a quilt, but the one that you soon learn that is a little scary and difficult to make, and it can be a little mischievous at times. Even if you get a half square triangle made up perfect, when you get ready to sew it in your quilt, there are 4 different ways to turn it, so you've got 3 chances to put it in wrong. So the half square triangle is beautiful. It creates the motion and the movement in the quilt, but that's also where the hassle and the headache and the hard work is at. So now, over 40 years ago, when I started thinking about how to develop, well, I was really looking for something just for me. I wanted to develop a system for me where I could improve on my human element of the cutting, sewing, and pressing. And so I soon learned that if you sew things together, cut them and sew them and press them and then trim them up, you can make them perfect. And then I wanted just one simple method, one simple way that I could make every quilt. So every quilt I have made, which hundreds and hundreds of them, have started out just like this, with a square in the middle and strips on the side. And of course you can make them any size and any color that you want. Now sometimes people are like, oh, you have 44 different triangle units. How will I remember how to make all of these different units? Well, first of all, you don't have to remember. We have books and different products that you can use to help give you that information. You don't have to memorize all of it. But I have developed the different triangle units, the different options, into families or into systems, so that it helps it easier. It makes it easier and helps you learn it better. Now, there are only 2 ways to trim this basic square. You can trim to where it's nice and sharp right in the corner of that yellow square, or you can trim leaving 1/4 of an inch. And so really, if you just learn those 2 trimmings, then you know everything. You just have to learn where and when to do those 2 trimmings. So let's look at the ruler down here while we're talking about that, and let's just see about looking at the tool. Now, if you are brand new and this is your first class with us, I recommend that you go back in on YouTube or Facebook and that you watch the other 2 classes that we had, Class 1 and Class 2, because I'm not necessarily going to cover the things that I covered there. And in the very beginning of the very first one, we spent about 45 minutes on how to sew this in a very fast, speedy, chain piecing method. So let's look down here. Let's put our camera, Mr. Cameraman, down here.
Can you hold a sec?
Okay, Steve wants me to hold on just a second. He's still tapping away over there on his program board. We got everything rolling good?
Yeah, but there's some people that aren't seeing it on YouTube, but I think I know why.
Okay.
There was two different places on YouTube to sign up, and of course they're only going to broadcast one.
Oh.
For some reason.
So 2 different places on YouTube to sign up, and of course they only broadcast one, and so people were not sure which spot to go to. We've never had that happen before. Always something new to learn. And you know, technology changes all the time. This morning we came to the YouTube studio to get everything set up, and there had been an update on one of our programs over the weekend, and we didn't get a notification about it, so we were like, okay, is this going to cause us trouble or not this morning for our Premium Club class? So this is my 2nd class to teach today.
I'd say go for it.
We say go for it. Okay, he said go for it. Okay, so can we have our middle camera on down here, please? And let's look at the ruler.
Put your hand out. Let me.
Middle camera. Okay, here we go. Great. Okay, now this is the mini ruler that I'm working with today, and let's zoom in a little bit more so they can get a great shot at see exactly what we're talking about, because this is key to the whole situation here. Okay, so this is the mini ruler. We have three. You can use the mini, you can use the original, which comes packaged like this, or you can go in and use the grande, which is our newest one. Now, all of them have this 90 degree right here. So when you see this, it has a 90. And of course, it's a 90 because you have two lines come together that touches. And this little arc in here is the 90 degrees. That's why it's a 90. So when you put the tip of this 90 right here inside the tip of your center square on your fabric block and trim it up, see that 1/4 of an inch from that point to the edge of the ruler where you cut it? That's the 1/4 of an inch. So when we trim, we push the 90 in there and cut, and it leaves the 1/4 of an inch. Or we do what we call the two-step, which means we step over 1, 2, and we put the tip of the line right there, the end or the tip of the line will go right here in the tip or the corner of the square. And that's the only two ways to trim. You just have to learn which corner to do it on and when to do it. And of course, we want these black lines to line up over our seam and this grid line right here to go right through the opposite corner. So let's put it on our basic square. And let's see what it looks like. So here's my 90 right there. And I'm going to push it into that corner, just like that, right in the tip. Black lines over the seam, and that grid line goes right through the point. Now, when I trim it, see how that leaves a 1/4 of an inch off of the point. So when I come back in and sew that 1/4 of an inch, I'm going to have that nice sharp point exactly where I need it to be. Now, when you make half square triangles, you need this to be sharp at both corners so that when you come back in and sew a 1/4 and a 1/4, it's nice and sharp right there exactly where it needs to be. So we don't want this 1/4 of an inch. That's when we do the two-step. So put your 90 in there and step 1, 2. And it looks like that you're cutting off that 1/4 of an inch, and you are, but you're moving the points and creating a seam allowance in here so that you can come in here and cut it up, and we're going to get 4 half square triangle units. So here you can see how we're going to get the 4 half square triangle units. We trimmed right up to the tip on all 4. We cut both directions, and we get 4 nice units. There's no papers to peel, no grids to draw, no prep work, no hassle. Just jump in there with your fabric and just start cutting and sewing to get your beautiful units that go together to make every quilt that you want to make. So you can see how I'm just going around to each corner. I put the 90 in, I step it over. So in all of the videos you've seen how to do this, how to trim leaving a 1/4 of an inch and how to trim right up to the tip. So there you can see right up to the tip on all 4 corners. We're going to come and cut both directions through those corners, and I just put the edge of my ruler right through those sharp points. I look at my grid lines to make sure I'm staying square. And try not to let your fabric move because you want to cut it both directions. And there you go. You have half square triangle just like that, 4 of them. And of course you can put them together for sawtooth borders. You know, if you've been in the quilting world for, I always laugh and say, longer than 15 minutes, you know that half square triangles are in just about everything that you make. Now, the size of the center square and a ratio for the width of strip that matches that is how you get your basic square. And your basic square is what determines the size for your different units. Now, when I look at this one, it has a raw edge. So it is a larger size. It is a cut size. When you look at a half square triangle, like you see here in the corner of this one, see there's no raw edges. It's sewn everywhere. So it is a smaller size and it is a sewn size. So there's the sewn size and there's the cut size. So if this is a cut 2.5, then this will be a cut 2. And if you know that's what you need for a block, then you're going to go to your reference book, and this is your main book for the system. And there are the first 17 options in here. It tells you exactly how to cut and sew them. Here's your page for option 4. And then there's over 30 quilts, over 50 different sizes of blocks, and there's 12 pages of charts. Look at all these charts to help you with your sizing. So I'm going to go to my option 4 chart, and in the very first column right here at the top it says what's the sewn size you're looking for. So we talked about that if this is cut 2.5, it's going to be sewn 2. So I just drag my finger down to find the 2, the size I'm looking for, and I just move across horizontal, and the middle column tells you what size to cut the center square, and the last column tells you what size to cut the width of your strip. Now there's a ton of charts in here to help you do lots of different things in here. That's just one of them. We're going to look at a couple of more of them in the video today. So these are the option 4 half square triangles. So when you look at some of these samples, so we're working on making our book. So you've got some cardstock and a glue stick, and you can put your sample in here all trimmed up, and then put your pieces in here where you've trimmed them into your triangle units, and then you can write on here any of the different information that helps you remember. So these are half square triangles, which is also an HST. They're an option 4. That's what the square and a square system does, is that option 1 through 44, each one is a different triangle shape. And then on this particular option, for these that are all option 4s, it says 2-step, all 4 corners. So we did the sharp trim on all 4 corners. Now this is one little sheet that I have made that goes in my option overview book. You can see here how I have a trimmed up unit, and then I have the cut units. You can see how you can just turn them and make a pinwheel. So look at your pinwheel. So this was our, let's see, the purple was in the center. We 2-stepped all of the corners. We cut both directions, and look how this turns into a beautiful little pinwheel. Just like that. That's how easy it is to make a pinwheel. Then you can see the sawtooth border where you put multiple triangle units in a row. And then you can see them individually here in just a churn dash, just a simple half square triangles in the corner with a little bit of rectangles and squares going through. And then these two are some of my favorite blocks using half square triangles. This is a friendship star or a Milky Way star. So it goes together like a 9-patch. So look how you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then you can put anything in there that you want. So for example, let's draw that out, a simple 9-patch. So that means you have 3 squares going across. And remember, this is like a grid. When you learn grids, then it really helps you with your quilting and moving on and creating things kind of on your own. So here you can see the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it is a 9-patch setting. Now inside these squares, you can put anything that you want. You can do a solid square and do it as a light background. You can do a solid square and do it as a color in the middle. You can do whatever you want in these corners, but for this particular one, we did half square triangles. And it makes this beautiful little Milky Way star. I so love this little block. I love using it just as a block, as setting corners in borders. I like them just kind of floating through a quilt. Just really one of my favorite ones, and such a simple one to do with the square and a square system. Now this one here is a bear paw block. And you can see that I just did it kind of scrappy. I kept my backgrounds consistent. So my background would have been my center square, and then my color was my strip. So see how you can do a different color on each side and get all 4 of those out of one basic square. So here's a red that would have been on one side, red on another, blue on another, brown on another, and it doesn't matter where you put them because you cut them all up and separate them. So then they become individual half square triangles, and you can put them anywhere you want. Now I want you to look at this bear paw block because it is a 9-patch setting also. So what we're going to do, we have the 3 equal grids or squares that go across. And this time I'm going to butt them right next to each other. I'm not going to do any separation. And then we have the corner square. And then see, this big square right here is all 4 of those. So see, you could make this by knowing the 9-patch setting. And then instead of having individual units in here that are 4, we're going to make those 4 one unit. And then we have, so see how this is 1, 2, 3, and this one is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So if this is a 6-inch sewn, and when you work with pattern adapting, you have to work with the sewn sizes. So the S is for sewn, and I always use C for cut. So when you're building and you're using the charts in the book, you have to work with a sewn size. So here you can see the other 2. Okay, so if we want this to be a 6-inch, there's 3 even units that go into 6. So 3 into 6 is 2. So that means each one of these is a 2-inch sewn. So that means that this is going to be a 2.5 cut. And these half square triangles will be a 2.5 cut, and it's a 2-inch sewn. So I would just go to my book, go to page 34 where my charts are. Here's my option 4, and it says, what's the sewn size you're looking for? Well, my chart down here says, and see how you have to work in sewn, and that's what the chart is. The chart is made so that you're working with the number that you have to work with when you're building quilts or patterns or blocks. So I come in here and find the 2, and then in the next column it tells me my cut center square. So my cut center square, so see this, let me draw out a little basic square here that's going to be my half square triangles. So this is going to be my 4-inch cut center, and these are going to be 2 1/4 inch cut for my strips that go around. And so that's my basic square, like you see right here, 4-inch cut center, 2 1/4 inch strips. Now your charts will give you the sizes for everything that you need, but you know your strip size by either looking at the chart or doing a little equation to get it. So if I know my center is 4, you divide it in half or by 2, and then you add 1/4 of an inch. So a 4-inch cut in half is 2 inches, plus 1/4 is 2 1/4, and that's my strip size. And in your book, of course, all of your different charts for all of your sizes, but when you go to the beginning and you learn the basic square and option 1, it has that little magic math formula right there that tells you how to figure your strip sizes. So your reference book, your workbook here is a wealth of knowledge to help you get to the sewing machine faster. So that's just how easy it is to build these blocks with the units and using the charts in the book. Now let's look at this quilt behind me. This is one of my favorite quilts that I own. And for those of you that don't know, I am a fabric designer also, and my fabrics that I do for my own fabric company called Square Textiles. Now this is fabric that I did with another fabric house probably about 10 years ago. It was one of my Civil War lines, and this is one of my most favorite quilts. Whenever I do a fabric line, I like to make a quilt that has as much of that fabric in it, and that's my memory or my souvenir or whatever you want to call it of that fabric line. I can go back in and look at all of my different fabrics by looking at that quilt and enjoying it, and then I don't have to worry about having a piece of every one of it in my stash and not using it because I want to remember what I made and what I had. Now all of these are half square triangles, and you can do these with just individual half square triangles like I've shown here so far today, or you can do these with what we call the firefly. And the firefly is when you have multiple half square triangle units going together all in a row. And they're notorious, you know, like I said before, because there's 4 sides, you can get them twisted around. So there's 3 ways that you can get it in there wrong. But when you do the firefly, and I'm going to show you that at the very end, they will not turn and get the color in the wrong place. So let's review what we did here with the option 1, and then we're going to move on to option 10. And all of these have a sequence about them. So everything starts out with our basic square. We trim right up to the tip on all 4. Then you can cut through all 4. I'm going to cut through all 4 points, and you'll get your half square triangles. And this is the path that you take for just single half square triangles, option 4. Now the next one is option 10. And option 10 starts out just like this. You have a basic square, you trim right up to the tip, but don't chop it yet. Leave it just like this. So here is our option 10, so you can see how you start out. Basic square, trim right up to the tip, so see this is the same. And then you're going to take your square and you're going to sew around it again. So see how that's now in the middle, and you sew around it again. So just like this was a square with strips, now this is your square and you're going to sew strips on it. Now because we trimmed right up to the tip on all 4, when we come back in and sew these on, we have a blunted area right here. So let's see if we can zoom in and see that blunted area right here. See that blunted area? And that should be a 1/2 of an inch, because when we come in here and cut on this here in just a moment, it's going to be our seam allowances off of those points of that green. So this is what the option 10 looks like, is this sweet little baby right here. So look how it comes out of there just like that. And see, we need this 1/4 of an inch right here off of this green tip, so we can come back in and sew our with our seam allowance and have that point just exactly where we need it to be. Now, when you sew around it again, you're going to trim leaving the 1/4 of an inch. So remember at the beginning, we showed how to trim leaving a 1/4. So here's your block, and you come in here with your 90. Put your 90 right in that corner, and when I cut right here, it's going to have that 1/4 of an inch. So there you can see the 1/4 of an inch. And then on my final option 10, you can see that 1/4 of an inch right there. So then after you have all 4 corners trimmed, see how that's in there like that? You're going to come in here and cut like this, like an X, and this way, like an X. And you're going to get your 4 units. So let's see what those look like. So I'll turn it like this so it looks the same. So you're going to cut it like an X. You get your 1/4 of an inch off of those green points, and this is your option 10. Now the option 10 is great because you can do it like this for a border. Look at that great border. And look how you can turn that mitered corner and go back across the other side. So just a really fun looking border and really easy to do using option 10. So let's look at our sequence, and let's look at how this is a family, because I really want this to be pushed down into your gray matter. Okay? So, basic square, 2-step all 4 corners, 2-step all 4 corners. For the option 4, you're going to cut it, and you're done. You're completed with your HSTs, your half square triangles. To do option 10, you don't cut it, leave it, sew around it again, trim. Let's get that camera out larger. Trim, leaving the 1/4 of an inch, and then you're going to cut into your X to get your option 10s. So I want you to notice how it's option 4, option 4, option 1, option 4. So for the, so see how they all start out with this trim. And then when you sew around it again, you trim, leaving that 1/4 of an inch, okay? Now this next one I want to, I want to show you this one on this block. So in this particular sample, you can see how we have a 9 patch in the center, and we've put these option 10s across the corner. So all you have to do is just flip them out. So here you can see how we just flipped them out. So see, they were in like this. So there they are. And then we've cut them. And then we just flip them out. What was in is now out. And you're thinking, okay, this is really cool. But I want to put these on something in the middle. How do I know what size to start with here so that these turn out to be the size I want so they fit on here? Well, this is one of the mini charts that are in here. So the charts start in on page 34, and those are the ones that deal with each individual option. But when you want to start mixing them together to go in a quilt, if you really look at designs, there's only so many different things that go together to build everything. So starting on page 38, we have all these extra charts that mix a plain square with an option 1 with a flying goose. And so you just stay on the line horizontally, whichever chart you're on, and all of those pieces fit together. Option 1 with a 4 patch, a flying goose with a plain square. And here we have our option 10 acting as a corner unit on any center. So this is an option 10. They want to be corner units, and they want to go on something in here. So the very first column says total block. So this right here would be a total block. So do you know you need a certain size? 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. We've got all of those different sizes here in the first column. Then in the middle column, it talks about the size for this right here. And then in the last part of this chart, it talks about what you need to do to start out here, and strips, and for your blue strips, so that these all get done the way. So if you just stay on the same line going across horizontally, it's going to have all of those numbers that you need that all go together for the same size. So very, very simple to do. So if I wanted a total block that was, let's say, 12 inches, then I just go to the very bottom one, and it tells me that this here in the middle is going to be a 9-inch cut. Whatever you put in here has to be a 9-inch cut, whether it's a plain square, whether it's a 9 patch like you see in this one, whatever you want to put inside that square. And then in the last column, it tells me what size my center square will be here, and it tells me what size my first row of strips will be, and then it tells me what size my last row of, so that these will turn out to be the size I need, and they'll just snap on this here in the middle, whatever that is. Okay? All right, do we have some questions before we move on?
Nope.
Nope? Okay, so this next one is option 14. This is a pretty color combo of the option 10. And notice how this is a half square triangle, and this in the middle here is a half square triangle. And then this is the next one that we're going to learn, which is option 14. And I want you to see how it is a half square triangle. So all of these start out with trimming 1/4 of an inch, and so that means that all of these are going to be half square triangles when you finish with them. So let's set these aside here, and let's look at our option 14.
switch cameras.
And of course, all of these, we started out with a 3-inch center square. Those of you that have been following along with us got a supply list, and everything started out with your 3-inch center squares, and you made like 30 of them, your first row of strips, your second, and now we're going to have a third row of strips. So let's see where we're headed with this one. So here is our basic square. Trim, leaving 1/4 of an inch, just like we did here on all of these. We're going to sew around it again, just like we did here. And we're going to trim, leaving 1/4 of an inch, just like we did here. Do we have the middle camera?
I don't know that you can see it as well.
Yeah, so here it is here. So you can see so far, these are all the same. Now we're going to sew around it again. Let me back up just a little bit here so we can have some more room. So this was it 2 times around, 1 time around, 2 times around. Now we sew 3 times around. And when we trim this one, we trim right up to the tip again. So you can see how we started out. We trimmed like a 4, we trimmed like a 1, we trimmed like a 4, and now we're going to cut it. So we cut it across that sharp point like this and like this. So let's lay these down here. So here are the option 14s. See how they have that half square triangle in the corner or in the center, just like all of these have. So when you come in here and you cut 1 time, 2 times, this is what you get. And that is your option 14. Here you can see it in a big one. And then I want you to look here, this corner right here, this little corner right here is an option 14. See the big triangle, too little, and then the half square triangle. And you put it together with a flying goose and a rectangle and a square, and you have a big advanced kind of churn dash looking block. Really cute. And see how it's not hard to work with little pieces using the system. Do we have some questions?
Just a comment, how did you come up with this and all the different options?
How did I come up with this and all the different options? Well, in the late 70s, early 80s, I've always sewn all of my life, but that was when I fell in love with quilting. And I made quilts. I probably made, I don't know, 50 quilts. I mean, I was putting them out. I had always been a very accomplished seamstress. Had a sewing machine when I was 15 years old, set up in my bedroom. I sewed everything that I wore. I just loved to sew. It was just a big part of my everyday life. And when I got ready to start, and I was doing bound buttonholes and zippers and tailoring and creating my own designs for garments. But when I got ready to move over to the quilting part and put all these little triangles and squares together, I realized that it wasn't easy. And it seemed like no matter how hard I tried, how slow I went, you know, how cautious I was, how much I pinned, I could not get the speed and the accuracy. I couldn't get the smooth, flat work, and I couldn't get in the sharp points every time the way I wanted to. So I kept thinking, how can I do this? What's happening? And I thought, well, the human is cutting, sewing, pressing. That's what I call the human element. And I needed a way to remove the human element so that I could get more speed and more perfection. So if you do all of the cutting, sewing, and pressing here, and then do the final trim to get your final results, then you have more leeway for that human element that causes the mistakes and the mishaps. And so then once I started with just the basic option 1, and then how to trim it and how to leave the point or trim it sharp, then the rest of it just kept flowing on. So my my first book that I did had 7 options, the first 7 options. Then my next book, I added more options and went up to option 15. So I just took the basic option 1, square and a square, option 3, flying goose, and option 4, half square triangle, and just kept building with it. And so then I added 2 more for 17, and then I started it on the diamond shapes, which means you have a diamond in the middle instead of a square, and those diamond shapes give you long, thin triangle points. Instead of the 45-degree angle, you get 30, 60, 120, and those options go from option 18 to option 39. And then option 40, 41, 42, 43, and 44 are ones that have come here the last couple of years. And when I made the very first ruler with the lines that I put on there, those, you know, at the beginning we weren't using all of those lines, but now as we keep going with the options, then more of those lines are lines that we're using. So I wanted one ruler that would do everything from 40 years ago to 40 years ahead. And so if you purchase one of those rulers back 30 some years ago now, it's the same tool that we use for all of the new ones. So I love that you don't have to keep buying a different ruler to do the trimming, and that tool will continue to grow with you as the options and the system grows. And one way that I've been able to keep making new options and new triangle units is with my online teaching, because it allows me to be home more, and I have a group of students that can follow me and keep learning and keep progressing. And we do that with the Quilt Club Week and with the Premium Club. And so my Premium Club members, when we started it up almost 8 years ago now, you know, they've been able to learn and grow and progress. If you're brand new to it and you're just seeing it today, you can be pretty overwhelmed with everything that it can do. But if you started at the beginning and just learn a little bit at a time, then you get there. And so that's what you have to do. You have to start at the beginning and just keep learning a little bit at a time. And you can do that by going to our website and signing up at squareinasquare.com with your email. And then with that email, it allows you to get into the portal where all the free webinar teachings are at. You don't have to wait and fumble around on YouTube or Facebook for when something is on or whatever. You can go right to that portal any time of the day or night, wherever you're at on the earth, and you can go in and watch those. Now, we progress on with Quilt Club Week and with Premium Club. Now, Quilt Club Week we do once a year, and it's a week long of teaching. Every day there's multiple teachings. It's like going to a quilt show where there's classes and there's lectures and there's little demos and just all of this fun, exciting things that help you get your mojo, keep your mojo, and get you excited and motivated and educated so that you can keep on with your sewing process. And the Quilt Club Week, of course, when we have it online, and I do my teaching online, the cool thing is that when I'm over and done today, you can go back and watch it again. You can go back and watch it again. A year from now, you can go back and watch it again. So the teacher is always there for you. And then in Premium Club, we do fall semester and a spring semester, and then Quilt Club Week is a part of that. So the party never ends with Premium Club. And you can go into our website and you can go to the banner at the top and you can sign up for Quilt Club Week, you can sign up for Premium Club, and when you do that, not only do you get the current and the new stuff that's coming, but you have all of that other stuff loaded in there as well that you can go in and watch anytime. So the very first classes I did 8 years ago, you can go in and do now. It wasn't like that you missed them because they're still there. Now we also have a quilt text hotline, and that number is 817-713-2879. And with that number, you can text me, you can send me a picture or a video, and you can show me what you're wanting to make or what you're trying to do, or show me your work, and it's, you know, it looks beautiful, you want to show me you're proud of it, or you're having trouble and you need help with it. I love getting all of the text and the emails of people who need help. I just told Steve over the weekend that I was at my desk and I was working on some of the text questions that people had and helping them to get to where they needed to be. And I said, I love this. I said, this is like a little brain teaser. I said, I love to engage my brain. It's like a little puzzle. Figure out what they're trying to do and then help them do it. So please don't ever be afraid to send me a text and show me what you're doing or what you want to do and what you need help with. And most all of the time, one of my very first questions is that, do you have the reference book? If you have the reference book, then go to page so-and-so, and then I make my video right out of the book and point out different things in the book and say, see, this is what it should look like. See, these are the numbers you need to work with. So having the reference book and then having the original ruler, those are the two main things that you need. And they'll help you just make tons and tons of quilts, whether you're following the patterns in the book and just doing it right as we have it on there, or whether you're creating and doing your own thing. Now, part of the reason why I teach the option overview is I want people to get all of these grids in their head. In preschool and kindergarten, you got grids in your head with your numbers, your alphabets, your squares, your circles, your rectangles. So when you see those are already programmed in there, and they're easy to see when you look at stuff. If you're a quilter, then you look at a quilt and you're like, okay, what did she do? How did she make that? What shapes are those? So with these options, and with, you know, this has got 5 triangles inside of a square, that's a new grid that you need to get in your head, so that when you see this in a quilt, you're like, oh, that's that option. I may not remember the number, but that's that option. That's a half square triangle. And then you can go to your book and start looking. And when you get your square eyes, we call it square eyes, that means that you're familiar with the shapes, and then you can start seeing them in the quilt of how to break them down. The square and a square system is so easy to do, and with all of these different options and these little units and components that you get, you can go in there and build any quilt. You know, you don't have to necessarily have a pattern for stuff. You can go in and just start making and building and creating your own, or taking something and kind of saying, oh, I like this, but I want to change this corner. I want that to be a so-and-so, you know, because now I know that's not hard. And then you can go to your book and look, and then like, okay, this is how I do it. So I came up with the system just for my own triangle relief. I wanted more speed, I wanted more accuracy, and as I started in it, I always say, what if? What if I take this and I do that? What if I take that and then add this? And so, and I loved it when on the Facebook page in the Premium Club group, one of the students the other day said, well, what would happen if we took an option 15 and fireflied it? And if you didn't see the video with option 15, you know, it's like code, and I haven't shown you the firefly yet, so you may not be familiar with the firefly, but it's just like I could see her wheels turning, and I was like, yes, this is what I want. I want you thinking about these shapes and what can I do with them. And actually, I hadn't had time to play with that yet, but because we're so swamped with Premium Club just starting up last week. This is our second week for class for Premium Club semester, for our fall semester. And then, of course, we've been doing so much teaching and prep work for our Quilt Club week that starts on Sunday. And I haven't had time to go in and play with that to see what happens when you firefly on option 15. But I'm sure you can, and it's going to be great to be able to do that.
Could you explain how to use option 14 chart to get a specific unfinished square size?
Okay. So we want to know how to use the chart for an option 14. So let's clear this out, and I think you can probably see these colors right here a little bit better. Now, it just so happened during the past week, I had a student that was, I think, doing an option 14 or an option 11. This is an option 11. We did this one last week. So see the difference? This is a plain square when this is half square triangle. Now, when I look at this, look how it has a seam on 2 sides and it has a cut edge on the other side. So if I'm looking at just this half square triangle, I can't use that measurement because it's got the cut and it's got the sewn. And my student I was helping, that's where she got confused at. So we're going to make this a 14. So see how it has, see this half square triangle right here? So, and I already previously said how everything has a half square triangle in the middle, the option 14, the option 10, and the option 4. See how they're all a half square triangle in the middle. Where'd my little 10s run off to? Okay, so see half square triangle, half square triangle, half square triangle. So that's what you want to remember. And this half square triangle, that's the X. See that X I'm putting right there? So we need to know what the size of this half square triangle is that you're looking for. And so when you do, then you just go to your option 14. On page 36. So right up here is your option 14, and it has a picture of the option 14 right here in the corner. If you have your book, open it up to page 36, and you can see an X right there on that half square triangle, just like I put an X right there on that half square triangle. And so on the option 14, it says what is the cut size. So you have to pay attention to the charts. Are they asking for a cut size or a sewn size? Almost all of them will ask for a sewn size, but the option 14 will ask for a cut. So you have to pay attention to what's at the top of that column and what it's asking for and what it's telling you in that column. So it says, what is the cut size you're looking for? So let's just say this is a 3-inch cut. So I'm going to find it here on the chart, and I'm going to move across horizontally. It's going to tell me what size of center square, what size of strips, what size of strips, and what size of strips. Now let's back it up just a little bit more. Let's go at it one other direction. Okay, so this is our option 14. So just like you're looking at this with, so if you're building a pattern, you have to work with that sewn size no matter what. You have to work with the sewn when you're doing pattern adapting or whatever when you're working. So it would be like sewn, finished, or graph paper is the same size and it's smaller, and the cut or raw edge is the larger size. And when you're building a pattern, you have to work with this smaller sewn size. So let's say that this is a 4-inch square. All of this right here is going to be a 4-inch sewn. Well, these are all even units. Remember we talked about the grid, about how you have to learn a grid. So when you look at this, it's this. It's 1 square, it's 2 squares, it's a square and a square. So it's like a 4-patch. This is like a 4-patch. It's 4 squares. And then inside those, you can do anything you want. I can do this. And if this is all one color here, so see, that's my 14. So if this is a 4-inch, then we know that these are 2 inches sewn. So that's going to be the size of my half square triangle. It's going to be a 2-inch sewn or 2.5 cut. And so once I know that, then I can go to my chart and I can look at my chart and it says, what's the cut? I know my cut's 2.5, find my 2.5 and then work my way across, and it will tell me what all of my different sizes are. So hopefully that helped a little bit. Once you get in it and you start studying it, you start doing it, it's all pretty much comes naturally. And I think once you learn that like if you did class 1 and 2 with us and you watched them, then you know that class 1 all had just that plain square in the middle, and we trimmed like an option 1. And then in the second class, we worked with the flying geese, all the different flying geese measurements, and they are 2 step 2, leave the 4th on 2. And then today's class is all half square triangles.
Okay, option 14 and 15 look almost the same, with option 15 eliminating a seam down the middle. How do you choose which one to use?
Okay, let's look at a 15. Let me just draw a 15. Okay, when you look at this one,
Well, let's look at it.
let's look at it. Okay, so this is a square. So I could put 2 together, okay? So if I put 2 together, then it's going to be a rectangle. Okay, that's a 15. So see how it's a little flying goose inside a big flying goose? And this is one that we did last week in class number 2, the second class. And so if I did 2 14s like that, I would have a seam down the middle. Anytime you have a seam, that's where you have a human element. And so you want to not have a seam if at all possible. So I would do an option 15 if I wanted two to go together. If I didn't want two to go together, then I would do an option 14. So this one is a rectangle. So you have to look at your design and see what you need. Do you need a rectangle or do you need a square? Hopefully that answered. Question.
I understand the process and options, but want to do totally scrappy. But I struggle to transfer cutting the strips from bags of scraps to managing the strips for them being scrappy.
Okay, so for scrappy, okay. What I usually think about, because I love scrappy. Scrappy is what I want to do more than anything else. I love a good scrap quilt. And I guess I would call them organized scraps because I do have a method of putting my scraps together. I don't just throw them all in a trash bag and then pull one out and it has to go in that spot. I don't do that. I don't like that. Some quilts can lend to that type of scrap sewing, but not what I'm going to say the beautiful ones that I want to make. No. So you have to look at them and kind of organize your thoughts as to what you want to do. And there's a quilt underneath here that I'm going to show you in just a minute. Steve, if you'll help me remember, I'm going to address some of that question when I go to that quilt. But I also want to tell you that I don't know if you're a Premium Club member or a Quilt Club member, but I love doing scrap quilts, and I have taught a lot of scrap quilts over the years. When I start on a scrap quilt, it may take me 2 years because it's scrap. So as I make this quilt, I take those scraps and I already have at least 2 quilts, maybe 3 quilts that I know that I'm making. So as I get the scraps, I organize them into the quilts that I'm making. And in the Hen House book, and a lot of that is what I did last year in Quilt Club Week of 2022. And if you join Quilt Club Week, you can go back in and watch 2020, 2021, 2022. We've been doing it since the pandemic of 2020. So you can go back in and watch those, and I talk about organizing your scraps and looking at what you've got and how to decide what quilt to make and so on. So hopefully you have access to Quilt Club Week or Premium Club and can do that. Do you have another question, Steve?
No, but Linda is helping her with a few other things.
A few tips and hints. Okay.
Before.
All right. So do we have another question? I want to look at the quilts if we're...
What is the quilt right there behind you?
This one is not, it's my fabric, but it's not one of my patterns or designs. This one is from my friend Lisa at Primitive Gatherings, and I think it's called Words to Live By, and you can go to Primitive Gatherings and you can get the pattern for that. It's called Words to Live By. And I love, to me, this is a scrappy quilt. This is an organized scrap quilt, and I love being able to do all of this. And those of you that are in Premium Club, one of the classes we're going to have this fall is making a section like this for our quilt, and I just can't wait to get to it. It's just going to be so luscious. And then look at these borders, how we have 4 in a row, and then we have however many we need to cover the side of the quilt. And that's the Firefly, and we're going to get to that here in just a minute. That's actually the last teaching that I have, but I wanted to get through some of this before I move to that, because the Firefly is, I'm going to say, advanced strip piecing, because you're going to take what you've learned here and then we're going to move on with it in a little bit different fashion. So and this one is hand appliqued and hand quilted, and I used to be on the road a lot, and so I got a lot of applique done. I don't get as much done since 2020 because we have not been on the road so much. So this one here is called Moody Blues, and it's all half square triangles. So you're going to make 4 basic squares. So you're going to sew up 4 of these, guys, any color combo you want. You're going to sew up 4 of these and cut them up, and you're going to get all of 1 star. And this one is called Moody Blues, and it's in your reference book. And this one is also hand quilted. This one I think I did in the car. So if you want to put the camera down here for just a moment, they can look at this one without me flopping it around, and let's kind of break it down. It's on point, and this one is scrappy. So on this one, since my backgrounds were all the same, then my center square right here was my background. And then these strips were just all different blues or all different whatever, all scrappy. And then I got my 4 individual half square triangles. Now notice how in the corners the dark goes out, and that allows it to have a little bit of a curve look. But see, here's 1, 2, 3, 4 half square triangles. Here's 4 half square triangles. So see how one of these made all of that. And these I would now do with the firefly, because when you have multiple half square triangles going in a row, then that's great to do the firefly. Okay, keep looking at that, and I'm going to switch this one. Okay, let's look at this one up here, and when you look at it, the snowmen are going to be upside down, but I had to put it upside down for you to see the part I wanted you to see. Otherwise, it was down here at the bottom. So this was one of the classes we worked on in Premium Club, and it was for borders. So we started with option 1, and we talked about all the different borders. There were 4 different quilts that you could work on with those borders if you wanted to. And this one was just a simple row by row. I did, so just a row of options and then a bigger piece of fabric. These are little snowmen upside down. You know, these were the option 8s. We did those in the first class. These were the option 9s. We did those last week. And then this is the option 10. So when I showed you that option 10, there it is. So notice how the centers, thinking about how to organize your colors, so the light, which was my background, was my center square. And then when I sewed around it, I sewed it all with red. All of these reds were the second time that I sewed around. And then the browns were the last time I sewed around. So I made sure that my centers were all the same, and I made sure my last row was all the same. And then that first row was all just different reds. And so it gives you an organized but a scrap. And so see, here is your option 10, and then here's your option 10. So see how it goes up, down, and there it is, just like that. Okay, and then here's the option 14. So there's your 14. And on this one, let's look at color. Let's see what I did. Organized scrap. So these were the centers. So my centers were all different reds. Look at all these different reds, and that was my square in the center. And then my next row that I sewed around, they were all the same. They were all lights and all the same. And they were lights. And then my next row that I sewed around was all green. See how that kept it consistent? So it gives it some consistency, but also flavor by having different colors for those center squares. And then of course the last time I sewed around all of them was the black. But if these had all been the same, if the center squares had all been the same, it would kind of have lost some of its flavor to me. I like it that it has more color and more flavor in it. Okay? So 10 and 14. So another question? Okay. Now this one is all 14s, is one of my most favorite quilts. It's from the Leaving Riverton fabric collection of about 20 years ago. And this one is an organized scrap that I'm going to show you what we did. If I can get it off of here. It's a big old quilt. There's a lot back there. I don't want to knock the whole thing down. It just keeps coming. There we go. So I'll let you just kind of look at it for a moment. Looks like it would be pretty complicated on your colors, but it's absolutely the easiest thing you can do. Okay, I'm going to get a couple of things set up here so that you can see. I might just use paper. I'll let you keep looking at it. Keep looking. Okay, let's look down. Well, let's look up here at our quilt first. Let me see what the best way for you guys to see this. Okay, so I want you to notice how we have the 4 large triangles that are color, and they're all 4 different colors, okay? And see, that's the biggest triangle, so that's the last strip, the last round of strips that you go around. Before I do this, let's just look down here for a moment so everybody can be on the same page with me here. Okay, so this is the final results before you cut it up and get your 4 units. So when you cut it, it's going to be like this, and you have your 2 triangles in the middle, then you have 2 triangles, and then the bigger triangle, okay? So look at this. Now this one is all color. This is our Paradise fabric. But notice here, like on this one. See, you have a center square, and let's say they're light. So let's say you're making 20 with a light center square. And then you can put same colors for that first row of strips that you sew around. So the first row of strips that you sew around. Or you can do different colors. And then when you sew around again, which is actually this purple one, and then you sew around it again, okay? So think about it if you did this one and you did light, dark, light, dark. So light, dark, light, dark. So you start out with a light and then do all dark and then do all light and then do all dark, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. So you can do the same or scrappy. So this means that this one has the light here, then the dark, then the light, and then another dark. So let's look up here at this one where it starts out with a light. So I'm going to look for the little triangle. This is the little one. So this was my center square. So this was my center square. So look how I did light, dark, light, dark. So my center square was light, and then I sew around it with a dark, and then I sew around them with a light, and then I sew around it with a dark. And you're going to get 4. You know you get 4 when you chop it up. So look at this. This is all 4. So play like there's one right there. So this could have all, these 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, those could have all come from one square. Now, when you trim them up, you get, like on these big ones here, when you trim them, the piece that you trim off is going to be a pretty big scrap. So we want to go back and be able to use that scrap. So like in this quilt, let's say there's 40 of these that you're making. 20 in light, meaning that you're going to start out with a light, and 20 in dark, meaning you're going to start out with a dark. So if you work on like 6 of them, and then you take your scraps from this one, and then you can take them over and put them on another one, because these pieces here are going to be big enough that you can sew them back here or here. So in this one, these started out with the light, and we went dark, light, dark, and then with this one, see this dark here in the middle? This started out with a dark center and went opposite. It went dark, light, dark, light. So hopefully you can kind of get an idea. Let me know if you understand what I'm saying.
What's the name of that?
This one is called Indian Blanket, and it is in the Malay Women book. And the Malay Women book are, we're waiting on a new shipment. We're completely sold out for like the 3rd time of them, but we are getting some more made. So it'll probably be November, but you need to get in. You need to do your order so that we know you want one. That way you don't miss out and have to wait for another order, okay? So this one is Indian Blanket. It's from the Malay Women. And probably my biggest tip on this one is to work on them in batches so that you can take those scraps, those trim-offs, and apply them to the next. And in the book we do talk about that. Sometimes stuff, you know, everything is so, we don't, you know, I love traditional quilts, but we don't make them traditional. So, you know, there is you have to think about, when you read the pattern, it's just a little bit different than reading a traditional normal pattern because of all the options, and we want to teach you how to save those scraps and apply them to the other one. Okay? All right, so if you have any questions, get them in. We're kind of getting to the end here. I want to show you the firefly. You know, after a class like this, I have so many pieces out and I grab so many things to show people. I just always feel like it's like a bunch of 2-year-olds playing and they get everything out. And then you have to sort it and clean it up and figure out where it all goes when you get done. Okay, any questions, Mr. Steve?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, let me see what samples I've got here.
I think when she was asking a bit ago about Scrappy and wanting to do Scrappy, I think she's figured out by seeing the Indian Blanket.
Good. Indian Blanket is actually a really good one to learn Scrappy. So when you asked that, I was like, oh good, I've got that quilt out here for you to see how to do it. Okay, so let's look at Firefly. Firefly is in this book right here. It's a brand new book that just came out in spring of 23. And I started teaching it in Premium Club a year ago last fall. And it just grew and grew and grew to all the different things it can do. And this that I'm going to show you today is just the tip of the iceberg. If you will go back and look in April of 23, Facebook, YouTube, or in our website, you'll see a lecture that I did and demo just on this new option 44 Firefly book. Now we call it the Firefly because it's like magic, and what the Firefly is multiple triangle units in a row. Okay, so when you look right here, you see multiple triangle units in a row. We all know that with the dog ears and all of the human element that it doesn't normally look as nice and neat as this, but using the Firefly method, you're going to be able to get that. Now, I've just used 2 color combos because I don't want color to throw you. I just want you to get the concept of the technique, okay? So start out with your basic square. Trim 2-step, all 4 corners. That's what we've been doing all day today at the beginning. Now, we're going to cut it in half one time. And when we cut it in half, we're going to turn it back around and we're going to sew them together. Now, when you sew them together, you're going to get this blunted edge in here. I don't know how well you can see it with the fabric that I chose. Let's see if we can zoom it in.
Come in closer.
Zoom it in close and maybe we can tell. Okay, so here you can see it's nice and sharp because we don't have a seam, but here we have a seam, and so we have that blunted edge in here. It's a 1/2 inch. It's just like I showed you on these about how you have that blunted edge right there, that 1/2 inch. That's so you can cut through there and have your seam allowance. See how we need that seam allowance off of that point. And so, you know, that's what it looks like, and this is how you do it. So you can sew as many together as you want. Here you can see how we have 4 together. I always say 2 or more. If you're sewing 2 or more together, then this is how you would do it. So then you're going to come in here, and I love the little mini ruler. I'm going to use my mini ruler, and I'm going to, in this edge of the ruler, right through the sharp point, and then my 1/4 of an inch line goes right there off of that green tip. And I'm going to cut it in half. Okay, and when you cut it in half, there you go. You have multiple half square triangle units in a row. And see how they don't get twisted? And see how nice and neat they are? I love, love, love that. Now, if I wanted to do them in a block, see how they could do that, and then you could have something in the middle And so, of course, you can do scrappy like we showed on the screen just a little while ago. This is just one thing that the Firefly does. Let's go through the Firefly book, and let's just kind of look a little bit. We have the characteristics, and the characteristics are, now also something that you may not know is that in the Firefly book we expanded the charts. So on the page where we have the charts, we have expanded sizes down here for bigger half square triangles and bigger flying geese. So those of you that have the Firefly book, you may not know that's on page 15. Okay, so we talk about how to do the cutting and the trimming and about what a firefly is. So this is a firefly. It's a rectangle, and it's a two-step on all four corners. It's not a flying goose, okay? It's a firefly. Okay, so here you can see how you can sew multiples together just like I did with the green. Look how you can switch up colors and have one color on one side and a different color on the other. Look how you can put flying geese in here and get that angle and that direction to change. And like we were talking about a seam, you will not have a seam in there. So you can see how you get the two different. So this one, let me cover this up. Okay, so that's actually your shape right there that you're getting. All of those different half square triangles, no seam in there, and see how the angle is tipping to the left, and then now they start tipping to the right. So this tells you how to change directions and do no seam. And then in this one shows you how to do a light center with dark, how to do a dark center with light, how to put them together to get different shapes and to get your different units going in different directions. Now this is a shape that we need to make all of these points on our feathered star. So this is now very, very simple and easy to do with the Firefly. And then this one shows how to make it go colors touch and the angles to continue to go the same direction, but your colors change. So this was a firefly, and then we have just a strip or a rectangle on there, and see how you get that solid square at the end. So in Premium Club today, the block that we learned we learned this little block to go with our quilt. And you can see here how we have two or more going together. So all of this came out of one firefly. This came out of one firefly, and this came out of one. And then here you can see it in another color. And so this was our second class for Premium Club. It's not too late to join. You can join any time because everything is videoed. So you can just go back in and watch them anytime you want. And we do have a ton of new Premium Club members this fall. And so I recommend to you to go back in and watch several different classes. Go in and watch Letters to a Soldier. Go in and watch Kisses. Those were some of the first that we did for Club, and they'll really help you get a good basis. Go in and watch the technique section where we talk about seam allowances and pressing and color and textiles. So this is some of the stuff we're going to do to get these corner shapes in here for our Premium Club quilt. And then look at this star with these fractured points in here. I don't know how well you can see it, but to get these in here going a different direction is just really cool. We do that with the Firefly. So just a lot of ideas. So
can you go through the sequence of trimming the Firefly again?
Yeah, let's look at that again. Okay, start out with your basic square, two-step all four corners. Cut in half to get two rectangles. Sew, flip one and sew them together so they're all going in the same direction. See how they're all going in the same direction? And then you're going to come in here and you're going to cut through. Let me scoot it down. So you come in here and cut through the middle, and you have your two different, like a sawtooth border, or like if you wanted this as a border on a quilt. See how this could be in the middle, and then you could go out this direction with the quilt. Because when you do a sawtooth border, if you keep them all going the same direction, see how these are going this way and these are going this way because of the firefly. When you get to the corners do funky things. And so if you have them, if they're all going the same direction, the corners then wind up funky. If you've ever wondered with half square triangles why the corners are weird, it's because you have them all going the same direction. If you go to the middle of your quilt and have one direction and the other direction, when you get to the corners, they're all going to be prettier than just those going around. Okay, another question? Okay, so a couple of things I want you to remember. Remember the quilt text hotline, 817-713-2879. When you have a quilting question, it goes there. If you have a technology question or where to find something or where to get a download or where's my order or when is my membership up, then that needs to be an email. That's a Steve thing, and it needs to be an email where he can keep track of it. When you use the quilt text line, I don't know who I'm talking to. I don't know your name. I don't know anything about you. I don't know if you're a premium club member. I don't know anything. I just know what you've put in that text. So it's good because you can be anonymous and ask me whatever quilting question you want. But if you're asking me to look something up, I'm going to have an email and a name, and I'm going to send it over to Steve. So that's best with an email. So the quilt text line, I'm there. You have a personal teacher, coach, instructor, whatever you want to call it, there 24/7 where you can get quilt help. So even though you're learning online, there are multiple things I love about it. You get to work in the comfort of your own home. You get to work on your own time schedule. You feel great today, sew. You don't feel great today, don't sew. You have a class today, you can watch it tomorrow. It's no big deal. You can watch it later when it's convenient for you. Play the videos over and over and over again. That's how you're going to learn and how you're going to get educated and get more knowledge and understand what we do. We do the square and a square system, we do what we call overcutting, and we do what we call the science of patchwork. We attack and approach all of the cutting, the sewing, and the pressing so that you can get more speed and more accuracy, and you can become the piecer that you've always dreamed of, and that's what I love. And I think that teaching online and having the cameras above and being able to zoom in on stuff, you're able to see what I'm doing better than if we were all in the same classroom. You know, I may have 20 people in class. You may be a little quiet and maybe a little shorter than everybody else, and if you're behind the crowd watching me demo, you're not going to be able to see. And you might not ask me, show me again, you know. But with the videos, you get to see up close and personal, and you get to ask. And with an in-person class, when class is over, it's over. You don't get to go back and rewatch. You don't have a text line to talk to your teacher, you know. So I love this online teaching and this venue and this format because I think it's great for you guys. And when you guys are having fun and you're learning, then your teacher is excited and happy because her students are doing well. And that's what every good teacher wants, is they want their students to learn and have fun and be excited about what they're doing. So I love the online teaching. We were already kind of transitioning over to this in 19 before the pandemic, but then after 2020 came and everything came online, it was like, why do we need to go back to do the other? This really is the best way to do it. And the other thing is that you get to work on your own sewing machine and you don't have to haul anything to a class. And or worry about, where is the class? How do I find it? You know, all of that. If you go to these big conventions, then, you know, it's a lot of work just to get to class and to get there on time and find it. So I'm really excited about the online, and I want you to come join us in all of our teaching. We're having fun, we're learning, we're keeping our minds sharp, and we're just having a blast. You will use up your stash if you come in and start sewing with us, because you're going to produce lots of beautiful quilts. So Quilt Club Week, what we have coming in the future, we've been working for 6 weeks building up to Quilt Club Week. It actually starts on Sunday. Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday we will have classes in the portal, and they will be there for anybody to watch. But on Wednesday it starts in the private part of QCW Quilt Club Week, and only those who have paid for Quilt Club Week will be able to watch all of those that we have going on. Sunday we have a class, Monday we have a class, Tuesday we have a class, and then Wednesday is what we call Early Bird for Quilt Club. and it'll be 2 classes that day. And then we just make sure everybody knows how to get in and find their class online. And then Thursday morning at 9 o'clock, Friday morning at 9 o'clock, Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, the last week of September. Then we have classes and lectures. They all load at 9 o'clock. It's like the doors to the quilt show open, and you can go over there and do that, or you can go over there and do that. You can go over there and do that. But you get to go back and do it over and over again. It's not over. So, and each one has a chat, but then also during the day we'll have lives. We'll have lives. I'll have a live at 9 o'clock each morning when we open, telling you about the classes and anything that you need to know. And then I also have live teachings each day that I'll do, as well as the pre-recorded, edited video versions of classes. And go back and watch. We've done a lot of stuff for the past 6 weeks. You can find out more about Quilt Club Week. You can see some of the quilts that we're making, see some of our other teachers. I have me, Kay and Kathy that's been with me each of the years, 2020, 21, 22, and then I try to have a guest teacher, and this year we have Sherry with us. Sherry is a Premium Club member, and I think in like 4 years she's made over 500 quilts. So we brought her in to show you what she's doing and how she builds, and she's a go-getter, and you can be a go-getter too if you buy yourself a square and a square. Okay, so go in and join Quilt Club Week. You will not be sorry. Go in and join Quilt Club Week. If you want to, go in and join Premium Club. If you join Premium Club, you don't have to join Quilt Club Week because it's a part of it, okay? So when you get in there and look around and see everything that's there, it's way, you have way more in there than actually what you're paying for. So go in and do it. It's a great value, and you'll have a lot of fun. And make sure you go to Facebook and not only join our public Square and a Square page, but go, if you're a Premium Club member, go over to the Premium Facebook page and join that. It is amazing to see what the other people are doing. It's so encouraging. And then each week when we have class, people post their different colors and their different blocks, and it's just really, really, really a great group. So I know you'll love it. I know you'll have fun because everybody is. So any last minute question on there, Steve?
No, don't see any.
Okay, Premium. I guess I'll see everybody on Sunday with our class getting ready for Premium Club Week. Oh, one other thing. By the end, to the end of the month, to the end of September, we have free shipping on a $150 order. So now's a great time to go in and get your books and rulers and all of that, and get that free shipping. And then also our new Paradise fabric, which all of this fabric that I demoed with down here today is part of our Paradise fabric line, and it's on sale for $10 a yard. We've got lots of different things for you to look at, and bundles and pricing and all that. So go in and look and get your order. Now also the Black Tulip quilt and the Stellar Star quilt, we got those up on the website today, and there's only a few of those. So if you're wanting those, don't wait. Don't wait. Go in and order those now. Black Tulip and Stellar Star. Now if you're in Quilt Club Week or Premium Club, a lot of the patterns are downloads that you can get there. So you don't, unless you want a hard copy of something like Black Tulip or Stellar or whatever, it'll be in there for Quilt Club Week, okay? If you get a kit, it'll be in there too. But, okay, anything else? Have a great time. I'll see you Sunday. Bye for now.